مرحبا يعطيكم العافية. I think my talk is going to be in English. ما بعرف إذا آخر talk كمان بالإنجليزي. بس bear with me. أنا يزن حجازي. شرف إلي actually أكون على الستيج هذا عشان يعني يمكن 1000 مرة كنت بالغرفة هاي، بس دائما on the audience side. بحضر فيلم، بحضر باند. this stage in particular عريق وله ذكريات كتير حلوة بحياتي. Okay, so I'm very excited to share with you today a conversation around how do we stay human when everything is changing? How do we stay human when AI is taking over? We live in a very particular historic moment. We have a convergence of technology, of AI, of politics, of culture, and lots of conflict. And that means that we need to think differently. I invite you that if you look around you, one thing you can really tell is that business as usual is dead. The old models we used to use, the old thinking, cannot be applied tomorrow. We're using 20th century thinking to solve 21st century problems. And this is accelerating. Everything is changing around us so fast, actually exponentially fast. We can barely keep up. So, what to do? To illustrate this notion that we are going through a transition, a phase shift, I'd like to do an imagination exercise. Imagine you are living 250 years ago. You're a farmer. You're walking in your field. Your life is very different. The soil underneath you is life itself. The air you breathe, super pure. You are tuned to the rhythm of the sun, the moon, and the seasons that tell you when to plant and when to harvest. The economy was simple. You eat what you grow, and the excess you trade, probably on a horse or a boat. The limits of your world are the limits of your field and your village. You cannot imagine anything beyond that. Well, that's the agricultural age. Now imagine a friend walks with you and they tell you, look around you. You see everything? Everything is going to change completely, radically. They tell you that you're not going to need your animals to work the land anymore. That machines that run on steam and coal will replace those animals. That railroads will collapse distance and modern communication systems will collapse time. That the economy will no longer be based on the earth, it will be based on industry and on factories. So you look at your friend, you're like, yeah, right. You brush them off because you cannot believe that that might come to be. But history tells us that that is exactly what happened. And we call that the industrial age. And my friends, we are those farmers today. We are not standing on the edges of fields. We are standing at the edge of a phase shift, a deep, almost existential reset. Things are changing. AI is accelerating all that change. And if what worked before will not work tomorrow, then what is it that we need? If you look, the future is already here. It was kind of like miracles just 30 years ago talking about cars that drive themselves, about detecting diseases, including Parkinson and Alzheimer's, from somebody's speech. We are already living a revolution. Now, transitions takes time. It doesn't happen in one night. But trust me, there is a transition. We are moving into a new age. For now, let's call it the age of intelligence. And in this age of intelligence, where everything is accelerating, and where conflict, wars, and the human condition is suffering, what is it that we need? How do we navigate this space? What are the maps? What's the compass? I'd like to share a personal story that illustrates this. For over 25 years, I've worked in very different places and in very different industries. From research and development in nanotechnology to financial services to building accelerators and tech ventures. And all my life, I was seeking answers. I thought that science, technology, will hold those answers. So I ended up getting a PhD in electrical engineering. And boy, was I disappointed. I thought maybe quantum mechanics will answer those deeper questions. Very disappointing. And it was in 2014 that I made this jump. I was living on a Puerto Rican mountainside, growing trees, composting my food, and I made a big shift to the marble towers of Dubai, the DIFC to be specific, pitching deals to investors. I went from an observer of the system to being in the belly of the system. And I realized something, that the real upgrade that we need is not technological at all. It's actually deeply human. I've realized that we're solving for efficiency, but not for meaning. What about purpose? What about wisdom? So now I'm an advocate of upgrade, of moving forward, but I'm an advocate of upgrading ourselves, upgrading our systems. Think about it. You upgrade everything. You're holding a phone, probably in a couple of months you're going to change it. You upgrade your car, you upgrade your house, you upgrade your clothes. Sometimes you even upgrade your friends. But how often in a lifetime do you upgrade yourself, your own mental models, operating systems by which you sense and navigate in the world? Upgrading ourselves is like the inner operating system. It's the values, the skills, the meaning-making that we use to be effective participants in this grand play of life. While upgrading our systems, this is the outer operating system. This is everything around us. Our institutions, our schools, our universities, our governance. Okay, so in the short time I have with you, this is the journey we're going to take together. I will make that case that the upgrade we need is human. We'll take a look at the world, the state of affairs, if you will. And then we'll look at AI just a little bit and how it's accelerating everything. And I'll introduce you to this concept called the meta crisis. Next, we'll look at some concepts that will help us anchor these new maps, these new upgrade that we're seeking, looking at systems, interdependence, and incentive structures. Then we'll look at the growth benefit mindset. I think you will enjoy that one. And then some case studies of very promising, very cutting edge examples, use cases of how we can apply this mindset and how we can move forward with it. And lastly, I'll end with 5 human skills that I believe are necessary to live purposefully, to be grounded, to be agile and resilient. I'd like to ask you a question. So if we look at the world and the operating system that runs on it, and we have a dashboard, how well do you think we're doing? So you will tell me, how well do you think as a planet Earth, little blue dot, how are we doing? So this is great. This is kind of like, oh, bad. So how well do you think we're doing? Your feeling, how do you feel about it? All right, thank you. What's your name? Okay, great. You're very optimistic. How old are you? How old are you? 7. Okay. 11. My perfect number. I love that number. Maybe that's why you're very optimistic. But I'd like you to actually say, like, how well do you think we're doing? Is it good or bad? It's interesting sometimes that when you're asked for your opinion, you don't take the opportunity to state your opinion. However, your presence in this conversation is super important. So, the world is beautiful. You can see a lot of beautiful things in the world. There's a lot of green that I will not talk about. Science and technology gave us and extended our lifespan. We've eradicated many diseases. We have brought a lot of people out of poverty. We have a lot of conveniences. We have air conditioning, on and on and on. That's great. But the point I'm making here is that while this is great and technology and innovation are important, they are not sufficient. So we will look at the darker side a little bit. So we live in an extraction economy. You know why? Because we love stuff. We love taking stuff from the ground, materials, and converting it into stuff, into plastic stuff that you buy, you put in your cupboard, and you never use again. You know why we need bigger houses? Because more space for more stuff, right? This is the extraction economy, or sometimes we call it the materials economy, taking stuff from the ground and turning it into stuff, and then dumping it. And this is getting us to encounter what we call planetary boundaries, right? The number of fish in the ocean is not infinite, it's countable. The number of trees is countable. Even the air molecules are countable. We can measure carbon dioxide. In fact, carbon dioxide has increased by 30% just in the past 2 decades. So, if we are living on a finite planet, it's finite, and we believe that we can continuously grow, which is what the extraction economy says we need to do. Grow, baby, grow, baby, grow. There's no such thing as, oh, yes, last year we made enough money, so we're fine this year. No, you need to grow your profit, okay? That's another conversation about the economic system. But this system is self-terminating. Maybe not in your lifetime or the lifetime of your kids, but trust me, it's self-terminating. Oil, if you look at the historical narrative, we expand into 1,000 years into the future, oil will be like a blip in a graph. That's finite too, and trust me, it's going to end. In fact, scientists already say that we've passed peak 50, which means we've already consumed 50% of the oil reserves that are there. So a system that consumes its own foundation faster than you can regenerate. So oil regenerates, just takes hundreds of millions of years. Trees regenerate faster. But if we consume faster than the earth can regenerate, then that is a recipe for disaster. And that's what we mean by a self-terminating system. Then look at the human condition. Wars and dominance over resource. Poverty and inequality. Mental illness and loneliness. Do you know that 1 in 6 people in the globe are lonely? That's a lot. Do you know that over 5% of the world don't have just access to clean water? These are hundreds of millions of people, let alone access to healthcare and education, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Suicide and despair is on the rise. It's estimated at around 5% globally. That's a lot of people who just want to exit. And you see that accelerating. In fact, suicide rate among teenage girls is in double-digit growth because social media is saying, you're not pretty enough, or you're pretty, but just not the right kind of pretty. Social bullying, et cetera, is also eating away and deteriorating our social fabric. And then we have a leadership crisis. I mean, so much so that young kids right now think that leadership, a good leader is a good bully. Might makes right because these are the role models. You want to make it in life? Yeah, okay. That's the type of leadership. Leadership is not about you leading people. It's more about why people choose to follow you. That's what leadership is. So all of this, these different types of problems that we're looking at, some people are concerned about the environment, some people are concerned about the humanity, some people are concerned about the effect of social media on our kids. All of them are part of the same system. We call that the meta crisis. It's the totality of risk that we are experiencing today. So, AI is a force multiplier. AI is not like any other technology. It's not a linear thing. It's a shift. It's like going from no electricity to electricity. Okay? So, and it's cross-cutting. AI is already changing how we learn, how we treat ourselves. It's accelerating how we entertain ourselves. It's accelerating how we express ourselves, what we believe, how we create, and ultimately who we become. In fact, AI is also affecting and nudging your choices through these clicks, through these scrolls. So yeah, AI can do great things. But that same AI that can decode protein can weaponize viruses, can create autonomous weapons, can crash markets, and can make extraction so efficient that entire ecosystems collapse. So, what about the upgrade? Let me give you just very quick concepts around systems. We live in systems. This is a system. Your family is a system. Your job is a system. And systems are, the systems we're living in are complex. They're not complicated, they're complex. There's a difference. A complicated system is something that you can know. You need expertise and precision, but you can ultimately know it. A complex system, however, it's dynamic. It has feedback loops. It's influenced by the environment, emotions, opinions, and tensions around it. So an example, putting humans on the moon, that's complicated. But like any father and mother know, raising a child, that's complex. So when we look at ourselves, we believe that we are separate, when in fact, we are interdependent. Your life, your lived moment right now, emerges out of three dimensions: self, other, and system. So take this moment for example. Self is whatever is arising, thoughts, feelings, signals that are arising in your body. The other is people around you. I mean, some people are hearing what I'm saying and thinking a certain thing and feeling positively about it, but maybe somebody next to you may be listening to the same words, but their internal reality is different. And then the system is the bigger context, the environment, the structure. In this case, well, it's the space, it's the venue, why we're here, right? It's the bigger currents of culture, politics, power, and influence that influence and are constantly around us. Now, back to systems. Sometimes we think, oh, the world is bad, and in some ways it's because there's a lot of bad people. Actually, there are a lot more good people than bad people. But incentives matter. Incentives is what incentivizes behavior. So the systems are perfectly designed. They're just designed to produce those outcomes. So the dynamics of incentives produce outcomes. I'll give you two examples. One is like, let's say, overfishing. So let's say we're overfishing, we all know that, and you're a fisherman, and you want to feed your family. So it makes sense for you to go and fish a little bit more, because if you don't, then your neighbor, the other fisher, is going to do the same thing. So where it looks like, oh, I'm doing good for me, actually, in the collective, it creates negative consequences. So if we want to redesign the system, then we need to think about the incentives. Because take another example. If a tree in a forest is worth 0, but cut and chopped is worth $100, then, we have a problem. If a whale in the water is worth 0 and dead on a boat is worth $100,000, then that's a problem. We're 2 minutes? Okay, can I have 4? Okay. 4, خلاص, 4 is good. Sorry, تحمست. طيب, so systems can be redesigned, right? We want to move from extraction to regeneration. From me to we. From domination to partnership, where decision-making and power flows through networks rather than through hierarchies. We want to move from scarcity to abundance, from control to trusting others, from short-term to long-term. This is a big one. We have an inability to do long-term planning, and we need long-term planning. We want the quick wins. Blind growth to the growth benefit, and from fragility to anti-fragility. So what can you do? Well, the growth benefit mindset is basically saying, great, grow, develop. That's why you're here. You're seeking knowledge. So you're in that. However, what about the others? So a growth benefit mindset is not growth at any cost. It's growth that uplifts others. And it's anchored in trust and collective responsibility. Who's responsible for the world? Why is the world the way it is? Oh, it's the government. Oh, it's these people. If only these people would do this. What about you? What are you doing? Right? So here's a couple of examples. AI for science and medicine. This is looking at tech and the growth benefit mindset. So AlphaFold DeepMind has mapped and cracked one of the hardest problems in science, which is protein folding. It mapped over 200 million protein structures. But the difference here is that AlphaMind is open source. So it's not benefiting just one organization. It's benefiting any scientist anywhere in the world that can tap into that. Liquid democracy in governance. Look at Singapore. They're experimenting with liquid democracy. Conventional democracy obviously does not work or is very easily hijacked the minute you put in power money groups. However, liquid democracy is saying, listen, I give my vote to one person in one thing and another person in another thing. So you understand in tech and cyber, I trust him, I'm going to give him my vote. But he doesn't understand in genetics or healthcare, so I'm going to give it to somebody else. So look at that. This is an interesting experiment. DAOs for collective ownership. Decentralized autonomous organizations are organizations that are built on blockchain that can organize themselves. There's a great example, Colectivo in Curaçao, where a DAO-backed local economy funds regenerative type of projects. So 5 human skills. I know I'm 1 minute over, but this is the last slide. We're good? Okay. So what are those skills that will enable you to ground and navigate? To say, oh no, left, oh no, right, oh no, I don't want this, yes, I want this. 1, root and wholeness. Most people are at war with themselves. Be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself with kindness. Give yourself a pat on the back. Because you are your best friend or your worst enemy. Only you decide. So choose well, okay? Next, live in truth. Truth is not something that you just speak. It's something you also live in. It's something that is alive in you. Seeking truth is not listening to propaganda. Seeking truth is not listening to the noise. Tuning in on the signal, on the truth. Speaking truth is asking yourself, am I speaking my own truth? Am I being on time? Am I showing up emotionally and physically? Anchor in purpose. Purpose is like a North Star. It's, there's a lot of talk about purpose. Find your purpose in a 3-day workshop. No, that doesn't happen. Purpose is a conversation. It's an evolution. It evolves as you are evolving through your own life. It's a fire inside your heart. It's the mountain you're willing to die for. And it's what anchors you, what allows you to navigate when things, the waves in a sea of change, that's what anchors you. And then expand your perspective. Practice perspective taking. Step out of your own view into somebody else. Practice empathy. That is not optional. Empathy is currency for human connection. And lastly, co-create courageously. You need to co-create with others, with AI, anchored in purpose and truth, so we can build a future that is more resilient, that is more hopeful, and that is more anti-fragile. Thank you. I hope that this talk sparked a couple of questions in your mind. I know we're out of time, so probably no questions, but you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.